welcome to the Escape, and we are finally
Hey.
talking Dune. I was like, yeah, sorry, I missed it. Yay, there it is. So finally talking Dune, and I mean we're gonna talk review, but I brought our resident Dune expert Jerry along for us. Thank you for joining us, Jerry. So yeah, I say we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk in some lore. We're gonna talk movies. We're gonna talk popcorn buckets, Jerry. And I was like in the title, like I put on the thumbnail, no popcorn buckets were harmed in this review because you saw the popcorn buckets, right?
Well, not to put too fine a point on it, I have one.
You bought it. You got to do.
I have one. I went
dude,
to see it with my brother, and he surprised me. And it's still wrapped up and everything. So
Chucka got the bucket.
Chucka got it, and he said he had $25, and he had to go to 3 different theaters to find one. And I said, I've seen them for sale on eBay for like $200. I said, no offense, I'm just going to sell this, but don't worry, I'll get you your $25 back. Split the profit.
That was one thing. So one of the channels I watch pretty regularly and listen to is Film Threat, and Chris Gore. I don't know if you know who Chris Gore is, but he was on G4 and he's been doing movie reviews forever. He's from Michigan, so I was like support Michigan guy, but he's over in California. And he was almost like taking orders for his friends. He's like, I'm shipping out like 3 or 4 right now. I got to get a couple more. And that's, they were hard to come by, but like the bucket itself became a meme. Like there was a picture because I went and saw it. We went and saw it with my wife, and my wife's oldest son. And I sent him a picture that guy had a shirt on, says, I just came here to F the popcorn bucket. I was like, I was, and he's like, I'm gonna make a shirt. He's like, hey, how do I make a shirt in 2 hours? I was like,
so funny.
And we went to go get him. I was like, you didn't make your shirt? And my wife's like, because I didn't send it to my wife, obviously, because I have some tact. But yeah, she's like, what? It's like, you don't want to know, don't worry.
How funny. Yeah, on Saturday Night Live, they had a skit. Basically, that was his first time, was with the popcorn bucket. It was really well done if you're looking for a laugh. So, but I'm going to sell it. So I don't know if I should try to sell it now or wait like 10 years and then sell it.
No, and that's if when it comes to reselling, if you're going to get in the reselling game, you got to strike while the iron's hot, because it would be one of those things like you'd literally have to wait like 20 years or maybe till like the next movie comes out. Then people are like, oh yeah, but like you gotta strike while that iron's hot.
Well, I'm getting out of order here, but I did see an interview with the director, and he was basically saying, yeah, Dune 3 is going to happen.
It's gotta happen.
Yeah, and I read all the books. Even after Frank Herbert died, his son took over or something. So the arc of Paul Atreides ends with the next one, which is Dune Emperor, I think. So yeah, one more, I think. And this is making so much money. They're gonna do it because there's so much money involved. So
yes,
we'll have to wait 3 years for it. But
it's one of those, like, it's far and away, the best movie of 2024 so far. And I remember when I found out they were pushing it back, like I literally, like Nate was on it, and literally I just started cussing for about 5 straight minutes because I was so mad, because with the whole Hollywood strike, that was the only thing that I was looking forward to. And then, it's being pushed next year. I was like table flipping, and I was so mad.
I know, man. Wasn't it originally November? Was it November?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, because I was upset, and I was confident it wasn't going to get pushed back, because the IMAX, I don't know, CEO, whoever is a spokesman for IMAX, says, no, we ain't pushing nothing back because we need that movie. And I was like, yeah, no, they're not going to push anything back. And then sure enough, it's like, yeah, it's getting pushed back. It's like, mother.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was worth the wait, though.
Absolutely. But all right, real quick. So growing up, I was Star Wars guy. Love Star Wars. But now, like, sitting back, like, here's my impersonation. This is probably what I assume Frank Herbert did as soon as, like, he saw And you just gotta be like, what the hell, man? Like Frank Herbert's gotta be like, George, like, come on, man, because you realize, like, not that he ripped a lot, but I'll just say he borrowed a lot from Star Wars or from Dune, and I think a lot of sci-fi, just after Dune. Anybody who read Dune, like, yeah, it got poached a lot, and
Yeah.
then like going back and see, you're like, oh yeah, yeah, there's plenty of poaching that happened from lots of things. Even going, from George R. R. Martin for uh, uh what's the House of the Dragon, with the whole thing with Daenerys is Paul and the worms are the dragons. Like there's lots of
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that.
I saw a side by side comparison of Star Wars and Harry Potter too, and it was
Oh
like, oh my gosh, a young orphan who lives with his uncle and aunt, and he has special powers, and he makes two friends, and it was like the same thing. It was
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. There's lots of things. I mean, it's been said for a long time. There's no original ideas, right? But it's just like there's certain things when you line them up, you're like, yeah, we borrowed a lot.
Yeah.
So we borrowed a lot, changed a few things along the way, and well, even like with the Force Awakens, it's like everybody's like, so they're just remaking A New
Hmm.
Hope, and
Yeah.
just like, I
Okay.
did my best to defend it at the time. I was like, no, they're just, you know, going back into a very, very, very familiar world.
Yeah.
but it,
Um,
but
I guess it all goes back to Joseph Campbell and mythology and the hero's
yep, the
journey, and
hero's journey, and
so it
and
really
that's
goes
the thing.
to the
Yeah,
the
you can
Greeks and Ulysses. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely no, and yeah, I'm stepping all over you. So, but absolutely, it's just you can always trace it back and back and back, and you can see like, oh, here, you pulled here, you pulled here, blah, blah, blah. And then you can even go back to biblical stories, and there's things that you can pull in from here, and yeah,
right. Well, I was so convinced, especially after I heard that side by side of Star Wars and Harry Potter, I went, I'll write the next big thing. Yeah, okay, it's not as easy as it sounds. I'm like, okay, I'll do a young girl this time. I couldn't think of anything.
yeah.
Kind of
Well,
like the book.
yeah, and that's the thing too. Everybody's like, well, they just borrow. It's like, no, you still have to write a good, compelling story. You can't just completely rip it off. So
Yeah, yeah. The framework might be there, but you got to build the house around it, and
well, that's
um,
like I was as soon as I saw Battlestar Galactica, back from the 80s, I was like, oh, that's a Star Wars ripoff.
yeah,
Whatever. And
yeah.
I didn't pay it much mind. And then, but when they redid it in the early 2000s, I was like, hold up, wait a minute.
Hmm. Now,
But
the one thing I know we're getting a little far afield from Dune as we
you'll go
usually
wherever
do,
you want.
but the superhero genre, it's again the framework is there, but it's hard to come up with like new superpowers. The only people that I thought really did a good original job was the Boys. You ever see the Boys?
Yep.
And I love the Boys. And then Gen V came out, and I went, damned if they didn't come up with more superpowers that kind of work with the plot. I was very impressed. Then I just heard there's a new one coming out, and I don't remember what it is. And I guess it's like a British version of the Boys, and depending on the country you're in, it's either going to show up on Hulu or Disney Plus, I guess. But
Okay.
one of the superpowers, this guy, his butt is a 3D printer. That's one of his superpowers. I'm like, okay, they're officially out of ideas now.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, the X-Men, because the X-Men became a thing. And the reason they made them mutants because Stan Lee and Jack Kirby like, well, we're really tired of making origin stories, so we'll just call everybody mutants, and then you just whatever
Oh,
powers you're a mutant, ta-da, and that's how they do it.
that's interesting. Well, and the Boys stole that idea because everybody gets
Oh yeah,
Compound V, and we don't know what's going to happen. I mean,
yeah,
that's a
yeah. You're gonna get
kind of a good shortcut for.
like shake up the dice and Yahtzee. Fly by pooping. I don't know.
But try to come up with try to come up with new superpowers. It's getting harder. So the butt print, and then I guess there's a man that turns into a cat, and they call him Jizz. That's his nickname. I know this is an adult show, but it's like So Disney Plus is gonna, maybe, okay. So
You've changed. Yeah.
yeah, we need a new collar for Jizz. Quick, get the 3D printer going. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it'll be great, but even coming up with new superpowers. But that's
Oh,
why that's why Dune is so great. Hmm?
yeah, because even like in the '90s, because Ab and I and all the kids that we knew were like, "We're gonna make a comic book." Okay, well, what's the powers gonna be? Like, well, he's gonna, yeah, like you said, it's like it's not that easy to come up with this stuff, especially with like what's new and original has been done before. As it turns out, nothing.
Yeah, there's only two that I ever thought of that, and still they're nothing. One was to be able to get the coupon price even if you don't have a coupon. That's kind of weak superpower. And then the other one was to be able to milk cows at a distance. I like the at a distance part. I thought that was kind of funny.
That's just telekinesis, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so basically my well is dry, and that was the only two things that came out of it. I got nothing. So
and one of my favorites, I mean, that is a character. It's Forge, and it's basically whatever he can think of, like as a mechanical machine, he can make.
okay.
Like that's pretty sweet. He's like, we need, and it's pretty simple for like, hey, we need a engine that does faster than light. Be like, oh, I just thought of it, and you build it. And it's like, fantastic. Thanks, Forge.
That works. That works.
All right, let's get
that's
back
why
to
Dune.
Dune.
Yeah.
So
well, go ahead. You have questions. Go ahead. I'll be quiet.
Oh, I was just going to say, and we are going to be getting into spoilers. So everybody's had a week. So if you don't want to watch but if you do want to watch and hear spoilers, and then always comment and tell us how terrible we are for spoiling things later. So it's fine.
Send your emails to Nick Mott.
Yes, that is my email.
There you go.
So, but let's get into actually some of the lore first, because obviously we can get into there's so many allegories for things. Dune itself, obviously, it's an allegory for everybody trying to take all the oil from the Middle East, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably and this is me just kind of speculating, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. The Bene Gesserit is basically the church, and to be more specific, probably the Catholic Church. Trying how somehow they're always in the middle of everything, every world decision that's been ever been made. They kind of made sure they were somehow they're entangled with it. So
that's the way I thought about it. Yeah, absolutely.
And then Paul he's our hero, obviously, but it's is there something if we had to base him off of? I know we kind of mentioned a few things, but
I mean, you could say, taking that religious tact. I mean, he's the second coming of Jesus, and has
Jerry froze up for a second. Everything
make that happen for all these years.
Oh, we're back.
Oh, okay.
We all froze up for a second.
Hey,
we're back, people.
I always thought Paul was either like Jesus, and right. They're plotting for the second coming, or somebody who can look and act like Jesus, just so the church can get more power. So
yeah, and that's pretty good one, especially because it says when Jesus comes back, it's not the happy-go-lucky Jesus, it's the warrior Jesus, right? So and that's kind of what I was going to call Dune 2, which is AKA Paul's Revenge Tour. So that's basically what it is. He's like, I'm going to, he's like, I know all the lore. I know all the prophets. I'm going to lean into every single one, and we're just going to go with it.
Yeah.
And it really shows how much, if we're talking prophecies, like not to make it, we're not going to be step on too much religious text or lore here, but if you know the prophecies, are you just doing them because it comes naturally, or are we going step by step of the prophecies?
Right.
Any type of prophetic message. It's like, well, if you know them all, are you going to make sure it's like a dance, or it's like, are you going to improvise? Are you improvising, or are we just hitting all the steps because we know those are the steps that you're supposed to hit?
Well, this was a little bit like Monty Python's Life of Brian, I thought too. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. But Paul is kind of the reluctant messiah, and he said, "It's a trick. Benny Gesserit can, at a higher level, can transmogrify poison in their bodies. It really is a trick. I'm not the messiah. I'm not the chosen one." And then Stilgar he says, "He's so humble. The true messiah would do just that." So there's. I thought that was hilarious, actually.
Well,
Um,
and that's one. So I was gonna wait for a little bit later, but
sorry.
I'm gonna bring it up because one of the best things to come out is the Stilgar memes.
Yeah.
Because because it immediately does become like oh like it's just like, oh, he pooped. That's how the Messiah would poop. It's just like that. Oh, he
Wow.
went through that. That's exactly how. And I forget what the religious name is. That's how he would do it, right? And it's just
Yep. Yep.
and
And that was really kind of made you go, huh? Even about our own world, because
oh yeah, absolutely.
they were, all the believers were like, he's the Messiah, and then Paul would be like to his mom, "It looks like your mythology took hold here with the commoners."
Right.
Whoa, is everybody manipulated? So you don't know,
Well,
because there's still.
yeah,
Go on, sorry.
it's absolutely like oh man, uh, like, kind of get back to how much is it from planting seeds to just straight up manipulating, and it makes it makes any good conspiracy theorist go like, let me grab my tinfoil hat real quick and be like, all right,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and I might be getting ahead of myself. I think they played that up more in the movie than I remembered from the book. That Chani was in love with him, in love with Paul, but she did not believe he was chosen. She didn't believe he was the Messiah. He was just a good old Paul, and so they really pushed that in the movie. But to get a different subplot, and even with a 3-hour movie, you still don't have enough time to get to all of the layers that were in the book. So
oh yeah,
I thought it was a good way to do it. As far as the movie goes, I know you have pre-prepared questions. You're Nick, the unsolicited compliment. You're a really good host. Just so you know, you're always.
appreciate
I
that.
might have told you that before, but you're always prepared. You're always insightful. You get everybody on the panel. They got a chance to talk equally. So you're good at doing this. But um, with with the movie, honestly, I thought it was damn close to perfect. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm not a fan of everything. I go with my brother to Chucka and to any Marvel movie. We went to see Madam Web, and he was
Oh,
like,
God bless you. You were the one of the 10 people.
"Yeah, it was." The other 8 came at the later show. It was actually, I think we were the only 2 people in the theater, but we went to see it because we like to see movies, and it's free popcorn day on Tuesdays at MJR.
Hey,
Hey, but he's always. I am unburdened. He's burdened by, oh, in the books, her
yes.
costume didn't look like that,
Yep.
and this is it. So you probably the same way. It's like, and I walk
Yeah.
in and go, "Who's Madam Web?" Don't know, no idea.
Like, look at the things flying around. But that's exactly how it was for Love and Thunder, because the last Thor movie, because the storyline was Gore the God Butcher, and Adam's like, dude, I got that run. I'm gonna let you borrow it, and you can read it before. And I was like, fantastic. So I plowed through it like a couple days before,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then we went with like a couple friends of ours, and I damn near shaking my head. I was like, I shouldn't have read
yeah.
that, shouldn't have done that. Felt like
Honestly,
felt like felt like Hagrid from Harry Potter's like, should not have done that. Should not have.
I actually enjoy all those movies way more than T'Chaka because I don't know. I
I,
just don't.
I'll be perfectly honest. There's a bunch I've skipped lately because I was just like, that's not the character.
Yeah,
We're not doing that. And there will be things where Adam and I completely disagree. Where Adam's like, it was a good movie. I had fun. I was like, F that movie. I didn't bother. I was like, I'm not even playing with it anymore. And this is coming from since the '90s. I have supported every comic book movie that has come out. Like if I
sure.
could, like I'm talking, I went and saw Meteor Man. We went and saw the Phantom. We all those corny movies, like
Oh
we
yeah,
were supporting them. And
yeah.
if you get to the point where even I'm like, can't do this anymore, like I just can't.
Hey, do we have a deep cut? Do you have time for a deep cut of MCU?
Absolutely.
So listen to this. So I did not watch the series Secret Invasion, but I guess the Skrull have been around forever, and a lot of superheroes died, but they're really in the planet Skrull planet. But there's a whole different. Just Chuck filled me in for an hour, so I know a little bit more about it. So listen to this. So Tony Stark he just wore the Infinity Glove, and during the the last movie, and then he's laying with his helmet off, about ready to die. And the other guy, whoever the other Iron Man guy is, he comes down,
Rhodey, yeah.
Rhodey, and he puts a hand on Tony's head to comfort him. Okay. But come to find out, you probably know this already. I see you smiling. He was actually a Skrull, and that's how they read minds. I'm like, did they figure that out? That level of detail? I think they did. I think they figured it out and put that little bit in there.
I
You don't give them that much credit?
I know I'd give it a little bit of revisionist history because even like when from the first Avengers movie where they had Thanos in as the end credit,
Yeah.
everything I heard like they kind of just threw that in there.
Oh, really?
It was just kind of like, and then they threw it in there. Everybody went ooh, and everybody's like, oh, they really like this. It's like not to say happy accident, not say it wasn't 100%, but I heard like they kind of just threw it in there because they didn't have Josh Brolin set up as Thanos yet, and a lot of that stuff was kind of filled in later. And I'm just like, that's the stuff I heard, but at the same time, I'm like, the hell do I know? Like, whatever.
You never know. I will always give them due credit because I loved that. What was it? 10 years from the first Captain America. Oh, and the first Captain America, the first Iron Man.
Yes,
those are my favorite.
It is the most successful. Yeah, it's not a run. It's like it's a decade of film and world building. And the problem is now DC's trying to do it all over again. I'm just like you're not going to do it.
Like, just they tried with Tom Cruise and the Mummy, and they'd have the dark DC or Universal, whatever. It just can't quite get their feet off the ground.
Well, and even with the new Superman movie that's coming out that they're filming right now. I was talking with Adam earlier. I'm just like, you rejected Henry Cavill as Superman. Like that was the fans guy. Everybody loved Henry Cavill. Everybody knew he got screwed over. You've already whatever goodwill you had is gone. Like Jerry, we're going to use a sports ball analogy. You can't hit a triple. You can't even hit a home run. This movie has to be an absolute grand slam in order to get people back. Yeah. And you're setting yourself up for failure.
Who is the new Superman? Some unknown?
David Cornswell. He's in stuff, but nothing that I frankly know him from. But I mean, he looks like Henry Cavill. He's kind of like a taller, a little bit not lankier, but a little bit thinner. Henry Cavill was just a massive person.
Henry Cavill will always be Superman to me. I mean, we've seen him come and seen him go.
Yeah, for this generation, there's basically Reeves, and then it's going to be Henry Cavill, and then and I really hope Cornswell can get it, but it's just like holy, James going to really set himself up not for failure, but a high price to be paid. So
I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. And DC is trying. It's gonna be hard to beat because Marvel had they just from the very first Iron Man movie, they had that mix of humor and this could happen kind of a thing, compelling character, and DC just doesn't. But Dune does. Trying to get us back to Dune.
Well, and that was the thing. That was the best part about Stilgar's character. He was not the comic relief, but he was that levity that the story needs because it can be at times such a heavy story.
Well, I heard that before I saw it, I heard there's actually some really funny parts in there, and it was really Stilgar when he turned around and went, that's just what the chosen one would say. I laughed out loud because, yeah, there's just nothing you can do.
Yeah, there's another part where I laughed out loud. It was not supposed to, and it was when one of the new actors spoke, and it was Christopher Walken, not as the Emperor because he wasn't Emperor in this. He was just Christopher Walken being Christopher Walken,
Yeah,
and I was expecting to be like, "Yeah, I'm the Emperor." It just started talking, and I just started laughing. Like, and my wife just shook her head. I'm just like,
dude, I
it's
thought
not,
the same thing. He looks like a good emperor. He looks
yeah,
war weary, world weary, and he looks. Then he opened up his mouth. He's like, Paul, I can't do it.
yeah. I wish I
Wait,
could
that's just.
a walk in, but yeah, that was my best shot. I was like, I'm the Emperor, Paul. You know,
Well, but talk
stab
about
you in the
cast.
face with a soldering iron.
Lady Jessica, perfect.
That it,
Paul, I think Paul, he's doing a good job.
yeah, and
Um,
that was one of my things that I had. I kind of got like highlights, and we can get into them. Javier Bardem, one of was excellent. Rebecca Ferguson, I was just talking to my wife about it. She's been, she's, very popular right now. I have not seen her in a bad. I'll say, she has not had a bad performance in anything.
yeah,
For the first thing I saw her was Doctor Sleep, but that was the first time I said, "Wait, who's that?" And then
she
she's been
wasn't
in,
Doctor Sleep, wasn't she?
yeah,
Damn, I
she was
forgot
Rose
about
the
that.
Hat, and that was the first one. That was the first I go, "Who is?" I do not know this person, but she's awesome.
The first
And
time I was
then
aware of her was in the Mission Impossible movie.
I was gonna say, and then I didn't keep up on the Mission Impossible movies, but I saw the last one in the theater. I was like, yeah, she everything she's great, and she's in the Silo series on Apple Plus that we watched. It
Yeah, is
just
that any good?
it's I need to watch it again
All right.
because sometimes I get a little bit too much into my own head of I get sick of girl bossing things and stuff like that. I kind of like I got to tone it the my wife gets frustrated with me because she's like, "You don't have to like critique everything." I was like, All right," but
But
I get because I get in a bad habit of like I'm gonna overanalyze. I just gotta shut up, enjoy the thing. Don't be too critical of it.
well, and that you bring up a good point with series because trying to keep that thread with Dune. Yes, it was a 3 hour movie, but if it had been, and we've been down this road before, if it had been a 12-part miniseries, Paul would have been riding a sandworm for 20 minutes. It's
Right?
too much.
Yes,
So I think, 2 3 hour movies that told the story adequately. And one of the reasons I was drawn to Dune early, I've always enjoyed series that create an alternate reality that are similar, but Harry Potter, Asimov's Foundation series, Dune. I really get drawn to those where they just paint a world where there's sometimes different words, different rules. Sometimes there's magic. Sometimes I like that. And the Foundation series, Asimov's Foundation series, God, I devoured that as a young man with all the three laws of robotics and all that stuff that he did. Now I don't know, it might be on Apple. It is on Apple. They have the Foundation
yep.
series, and somebody probably loved those books as much as I did and went, "We're going to do this right." They lost me. It's too slow. It's too drawn out. It's too detailed, and you lose the thread of the story. And I really was looking forward to it, but I've been waiting for. I don't know if you're familiar with the story, but I was waiting for the psychohistorian Harry Seldon. He appears every 6 years. It's been 3 episodes and he's still not there. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of tapping out. So, another thing I just loved about Dune is they made that decision first of all to do it in 2 parts and do them as long as they need to go, but tell the story, and every frame moves the story ahead. It's just masterful filmmaking.
I agree. Yeah, getting back to there's a reason why there's Star Wars, there's Dune, Star Trek. The very uh, popular sci-fi specifically because it is somewhat relatable, because sometimes you have sci-fi that goes too hard into being original, and then I start reading things. I was like, I don't even know how to pronounce this word, let
Yeah.
alone this is the main character's name. I'm not saying, I don't know what I'm supposed to be saying, and this is the main
Right.
character. I'm just like, I can't do it. And that's where I think the names they're different, but they're just they're
Yeah.
just different enough. And I think there's House of the Dragon, where the names are very similar, where they're just a little bit different, maybe pronounced just a little bit different, but
Right.
things that are very easy to remember, because that's at this point, man, I've watched so many things. There's so many characters where I'm just like, you really got to get my attention in order to, like,
Yes.
for me to remember your character. And it's not like when we've had Nate on and with this comic book, where I'm just like, I can't remember the characters' names. I need to go back, and it's just like, it's not that's bad or anything, but it's just like me. I was like, there's just so much crap up here where I'm just like,
Sure.
unless there's some form, unless there's some way for me to bookmark it or whatever. It's just like,
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of happened lately. I mean, like, okay, for Asimov, I don't know, I was still in my teens when I read it, and there's I think 3 volumes, maybe 4 volumes, Second Foundation, and all this stuff. It took me months to read. That was the only thing I was involved in. Now I flip a channel and I'm watching Dune 1. I flip another channel, I'm watching Foundation. Flip another channel, I'm watching Order of the Phoenix. And yeah, it's just to have something in print. It's just different than it was when we were growing up.
yeah. Well, and I like I said, I don't know. I'm sure if I was raised in this day and age, I'd have lots of you know letters attached to my personality of ADHD or all these different things, because I'm just like, that's why I'm really good with comic books. I was like, give me 20 minutes. That's my attention span for the most part. Like, I'll give you 15, 15 to 30 minutes of total focus. Beyond that, like, squirrel. It's just,
Right. Well, full disclosure, I did not realize I've seen the beginning credits of your show, the beginning sequence, lots of times. I never realized it spelled out escape. I just never did. I'm like, hey, that spells escape. The letters he put big and yellow.
that was me just trying to be clever. I was like, and that was like the last thing. I was like, what's the last D? Everything nerdy. That'll work. Okay, perfect. Like,
Well, it's very clever. That was a nice little Easter egg for me to find
yeah.
years later, many episodes later. So,
But
but
yeah,
that's
so go on.
just as far as creating a different world, you just both those taken Dune 1 and 2, it's like note perfect. Everything that I imagined is happening. There was one spot at the beginning of the movie when the Harkonnen are out there, and all of a sudden they start getting attacked, so they fly up into the air, and to get to the top. It looked so realistic and it was so unexpected, but it didn't look like they were on wires. It was just like,
Yes,
oh, wow, we're in
and that
that
was the thing,
world.
because I didn't pick that up in the first Dune movie. I thought they were dropped down. I didn't realize, like, oh, that's a technology thing where they can just,
Right.
that's one of their things. And then one of the things I wanted to hit on was a highlight was the cinematography. And
Oh,
the cinematographer is Greg Fraser. So I was looking at his IMDb earlier. So he's just been crushing it on a lot of stuff. He was Rogue One, the first season of Mandalorian. You know, there's a bunch of other stuff, but it was just like all the credits were like everything. Oh, the creator. I'm not sure if you've
oh,
seen that.
beautifully shot. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm just there's certain things like I saw his IMDb. I was like, everything that I remember being gorgeous, this guy shot it recently. I'm just like,
Really.
yeah. So just like you said, and the cinematography, it's one of those things where people don't get enough credit for. Everything goes to the director, but like the director of photography is the one who says this is how we're going to shoot it, and and this is how we're going to create all that. And
Yeah.
like I said, it's just one that it's been a long time since you went like I'm just gonna immerse myself in this, and it was just so nice to just be like, "Oh yeah, I'm in a different place." Like, and when you're sitting in a theater and you feel like you're in a different place, like mission accomplished, and I did it.
Well, and I assume he was the same guy on the first Dune movie because it's rare. Usually, when we go out for a taco after and we're talking about it, we talk about the plot, the characters. We had to, and I'm not surprised you brought this up because we talked about. You remember that scene? Remember how it looked? There's one in Dune one where they're just about ready to leave Caladan, and Paul's walking along the beach, and behind him are all the carriers up in the sky, right? And it was just like that's all it was, but it was like, oh, it just clicked, It's great.
Well, and that was like I've tried a few times, and I haven't done it in a while to watch the original Dune from the '80s, but it
Yeah,
just like, and it's crazy because it's just a desert.
right.
And you're like, well, how come I was like, I don't know why, but it's a spectacular desert the entire time. Like every time, it's like, I don't know why this is enthralling to me. It's just desert. We have them on Earth. I'm, I have no interest in really going to see one anytime soon, but just going like, oh, this is Arrakis, and
Yeah,
this
just
this is
spectacular.
this is its own place.
And I don't know where they filmed it. I don't know, but when he and Chani were sitting there, and he was like, "Oh yeah, in my hometown in Caladan, all of this would be underwater, so deep you couldn't touch it, the bottom, and all that stuff,
Right.
and just that endless, featureless desert going out forever." Really gave you that feel, and even that's the other thing. I turned to T'Chaka in the middle of it when Paul is becoming a Fremen and they attack the spice hauler, and Chani had that bazooka and she's shooting the ornithopter out of the sky. I turned to Chuck and I went, "That is real. That looks so real. Massive machine and things going into the ground, and it wasn't CGI. It probably wasn't. I don't know how they did it, but it's like, holy shit, we're
Yeah.
getting good at this stuff."
Well, and getting back to I'll just say, especially the latest MCU stuff, where it's like the graphics are not good, but this is like you said, I don't know what's fake and what's real. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
and when you do that, you're like, once again, you got me. Like as long as there's so many times where especially with bad CGI, and you just go, "Yep, that's fake. Yep,
yeah. Oh yeah.
and you never did that in this movie. And
Not a single time. And you know what? Our brains, our eyes adjust so quickly. I remember being just jaw on the ground the first time I saw the Brontosaurus in Jurassic Park. And now I look at it and you can kind of tell they're not quite part of the, It's like, was that always like that?
well, and part of the problem is things like 4K and HD and 8K and all
Yeah.
that, and certain like it's it's like the poor news people be like, "You were not made for HD, sir." It's
Yeah.
like you can see all the makeup, you can see where the makeup lines stop, you can see all the wrinkles, even when that you're trying to conceal, and it's just like, like back in the 80s and 90s, that wasn't a big deal because the resolution wasn't that good, and that's kind of where that all fell into, where it's like this will work, this we can pull this off, but when you got 4K Ultra HD whatever, and there's just I'm watching stuff and I'm just like, I see wrinkles that you should not be seeing. Like I don't
Yeah.
know if you've ever watched Yellowstone and Kevin Costner, you can see every damn wrinkle that man's got. Just
He's
like
looking old.
well, it's just like you have spent a lot of time in the sun, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But then now there's all the de-aging stuff like with Harrison Ford and the last thing. And I think that was a point of contention, I think, with the writer strike that went on forever is who owns these characters? And Margot Robbie was on the front line. I remember she had some interview on some news show and she was kind of mean and funny, but she said, "I don't want my grandkids to see my image in like a backdoor orgy film later on." And because grandma really didn't do that.
Yeah, I didn't see much of it. I only saw like a fraction of it, but like the Taylor Swift AI stuff, I was like, I don't search out the bad stuff. But I know people are like, oh my. I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's part of the issue with AI de-aging, and getting back to, did you see The Creator by chance?
I did. I did.
Okay, so I was watching one of the great channels that does a really good job of going through special effects and all that is Corridor Digital, and they had the director on there. And one of the things that they made sure to include or keep when they shot all their footage, they didn't have like what you would typically do is like you'd have a guy in a suit with markers so you can do that. They
Yep.
just filmed humans and they would just paint them out and just be like, replace them with machines. So that there was no like, oh, you're going to be a machine, you're going to be a machine. They didn't decide that until it was in post. But when they were, you know, doing the characters who were also the Sims and all that, or was it Sims or Stims? I forget.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
but either way, what they kept was the throat and the neck because that is where you lose a lot of people because you don't have the natural. Just from me talking, you can see the
Right.
movement
Right.
and the stretching of skin. And when that was one of the biggest things that they would point out specifically the Harrison Ford de-aging is they there was no skin stretching of the neck and like there's just simple like human cues that your eye picks up that goes, oh, that's fake. And that's one of the reasons they specifically kept like the throat part of the neck.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
as soon as they said that, I watched it again. I was like 100%. Like just when you see someone talking, and it's really hard to mimic all that, and not
Right.
impossible, but incredibly difficult to mimic in CG.
Right. Well, it must be tough. If I ever get a double chin, I'm going to be that much more communicative. I'm sure. If I ever, that's all.
That's
Who knows?
so.
Oh, that's interesting, Nick. I never heard that before.
Yeah,
But
it's a great channel. Check out Corridor Digital. They release videos like all the time, and they had like the director from Godzilla -1 before the movie came out. Just they get some really they do a lot of great videos, especially on the technical aspect of it.
Mhm. Oh, very cool. Very cool. I'm gonna check it out.
So
But as far as Dune goes, I don't want to get too far ahead or too far away from Dune. Did you have other questions, other things you want to talk about, or I can just keep riffing?
no, we'll just keep going. So let's do like highlights and
Okay.
we'll, so some of the new characters that we had, obviously, the one that stole the show for me as far as new people was Austin Butler
Yeah,
as
dude.
Jade Rafa, and I've been kind of singing his praises now for the last few months because, uh, I thought he was like when I saw him in Elvis, I was like, okay, like everybody can kind of do an Elvis, right? But what I've been watching him in Masters of the Air once again on Apple Plus.
Haven't seen
Um,
that one.
but like there's just something I kind of coined him just because when people are on screen, like you immediately go, and he's one of those guys. Like when he's on screen, like you just go, like your eyes just go right to that guy, and I think
Mhm.
he's probably one of the few where I go, yeah, that dude's a movie star because even when he's just on screen, he's just got that, my eyes go right to him.
Yep, yep. I kept on looking at him, going, he played Elvis. What a transformation! Just to embody that character to the point where even with his image 30 feet high, looking at every little micro expression, he was so evil. It was just unnerving. And I used to get him going, and he was the same guy who played Elvis. What a transformation!
Funny thing, so and this is known. So when the first episode or so of Masters of the Air, like I was like, is he just doing Elvis again? And I guess he had to go get a dialect coach because he went all method, and he was basically lived as Elvis and he's like they had to get a dialect coach to get him to stop talking like Elvis. So the first episode, it's kind of like he's got that little,
Yeah,
that twang, and I'm just like, all right. But then like episode 2, it's kind of gone. Like it kind of disappears. I'm like,
interesting.
okay. Um,
Yeah.
but
Little
let's
side note
compare. Yeah, go
is
ahead.
I'm sorry. Is that Masters of the Year? Is that worth watching so far?
I like it. I kind of need I am not the history buff. I kind of want to compare some of the stuff. Okay, so some of the things that they do very well, and this is the same people who did Band of Brothers and the Pacific. It is not as good as those. I will say that. But one of the
Okay.
things they do very well is just the absolute complete and utter chaos that it was for the B-17 pilots.
Okay.
Just basically like it's like going into a fight with Mike Tyson and you just get punched in the face because you just have to sit there and take it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things they convey very well. And getting back to part earlier where it's so hard for me to keep up with some of the characters just because they're all guys from the 40. I'm like, are you
Yeah.
Jack, Buck? Because there's a Bucky, and they're best friends. I was like, are you Buck or Bucky? Are you a new guy? I can't because they're all trying to play guys from the 40s, and they all kind of look like caricatures of the 40s. I'm like, who are you
Right.
again? And by the time I remember, I was like, oh, the show's over. I was like, son of a bitch. But
Yeah.
they had a scene from the last episode, and I just went like, holy jeez, because it was one of the dog fights, and it was only a few second shot because the shot had to be so damn expensive.
Yeah.
Um, but it was the B-17s and then the P-51s and the Messerschmitts, and it looked like a hornet's nest that where all the horns were coming out. I just went like, holy jeez! And one of the things they do very well is convey basically those B-17s just had to sit there and take it
Mm.
because they had a scene earlier, and not to give away too much stuff, but there's an interaction between the American bomber pilots and the British bomber pilots, and this is something I didn't really realize. The British bombers bombed at night when they
Oh,
couldn't see them, right? And the British bombers are basically, "Hey, dumbasses, why aren't you guys bombing at night?" And then
mhm.
Americans are like, "Well, we want to hit our targets because that's
Right.
when you can see their targets." Well, it's like, yeah, but that's when the enemy can see you as well.
Interesting.
So, and there was kind of that dynamic, but also it's kind of one of the, well, we're America. We're not trying to just kill everybody. We're here just to actually take out the enemy.
Right.
And
Right.
but yeah, it just shows that hey, we're flying right at you. You know we're coming, and we just got to take it
And,
because that's the only way. Because it showed where some of the bombers were, if they got separated, then all they would just get swarmed by the
oh,
fighters. So they had to keep in tight formation so that they could. That was their only defense was because they got all the different gunners, tail gunners, top gunners, ball gunners,
right.
and so that was their own one of the only defensive tactics they had is staying together so they could
Interesting.
have such a and it does a really good job of now that I'm saying it, I realize how hard it is to convey what it is, but also getting back to what we talked about earlier, trying not to be so damn critical of everything. So, but
Well,
it really because one of the closest especially the bombers never got too much love as far as the World War II stuff. The only movie I really remember was like Memphis Belle back in the day in the 90s
mhm.
because
Yeah.
that was one of the famous bombers that made all the way through their missions and got to go home and then you realize just yeah, as the deeper it goes it kind of gets into like oh like and because the story is all based off the 100th bomber unit and just they by the very early on it was called the Bloody 100th because they just had so many casualties and they
Yes.
just get into it is well worth checking out but is it as good as Band of Brothers and the Pacific? No, but that's also because Band of Brothers is one of the probably the best mini series that's ever been done.
Ever.
So
Yeah.
it's it's right up there with like season one of True Detective, where it's damn near flawless, if not perfect.
Hmm. Hmm. And you're talking about bombing during the day. Just making another Dune connection. I went, oh, because they had the black fireworks during the day, and I just thought that was like such a cool touch. We're going to celebrate, but in our Harkonnen dark way.
Well, and that was one of the things I read in an article where was it Getty Prime is the home world, right?
Yep.
And that was one of the things that they uh, Denis Villeneuve took a little bit of uh, you know, a little bit filled. He called that filling it in because making the planet so contrasty. It's either black and white. Either you're strong or you're weak. There's no in between. You're either good or you're bad. There's no in between. And that was such a very interesting way of visually saying that. It's like you're either successful or you're not. There's no other way to survive in this world.
Right, right. And that actually reminded me of Star Wars, because Lucas, I mean, he would just, the Hoth, the ice planet, or the next time we're going to be in the forest. He was always looking for different environments. But it was, at the beginning, it was Luke in the desert, and doing things by hand compared to the black and white, the steel, the space, so I didn't mind that they borrowed that idea, because how else could you possibly do it? And I thought they did it in if
I thought it was visually stunning. I thought it was great.
Oh, that's great. It was great. It did remind me of that, and I went, oh, but I didn't mind that, because again, just everything was just in that new world in Dune. So.
Well, yeah, one, it took you to a place you'd never been before, where everything was literally black and white, very little gray. I think maybe just like the sand of the arena was the only gray part, but everything else was black and white.
Yeah,
What a cool way to convey, such a
all the touches where Baron Harkonnen goes into that oily bath and just nasty. Yeah, too many good things.
One of the things I kind of wanted to convey, because it was one of the criticisms that my wife's oldest son had, where he's just like, well, Austin Butler, he didn't play like the psychopath. And I was like, like he was, like Sting was, kind of like just the unhinged. I was like, I think that was the point, because I think Fade Roth is supposed to be like, he's a psychopath, but he's a very calculated psychopath.
Calculated, intelligent, and in control until he's not. So yeah,
well, and I think that was one of the things, they made that conclusion or that comparison where, it's basically they have Fade Rotha and they have Paul, and they're like, they have all these traits. Which one are we gonna back? And it's like, and it's clearly like, one is an absolute monster, but one's a monster of his own, and it's just like, which monster are we gonna back? And I think obviously you're meant to, go with, Paul, but also they kind of said they're both absolute monsters in their own way. Oh, hold on. We got someone. Hold on. It's Adam.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, good to see you, pal.
Good to be seen, man. Good to see you too. Good to see you.
Man, you just getting off work, you poor fella?
I worked a little late tonight, and then I'm just a little under the weather too, so I won't lie. I took a bit of a nap, and then I turned on YouTube, and I saw you guys, and I was like, well, let me get off this couch.
Absolutely.
And join the fun.
I would love to talk to you. I got to get going. It's grandma time. But I would love to go out to dinner with you guys. This probably isn't officially time to do it on a podcast like this, but we should get together, man. Let's go have a burger and just talk.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Maybe.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll figure it out. So Nick, I got to get
help me in.
Your email addresses, and we'll coordinate something. That'd be just too much fun. Too much fun. So Nick, thank you again for inviting me. Always a pleasure. I can't believe how fast these hours go.
I was going to say, we'll probably have to do this again, because we got into about all of 10 minutes of actually talking about Dune. So.
We talked about a lot of stuff besides Dune. It was all connected somehow. So, and I just realized today that the ESCAPE and escape all starts a different word. I never saw that before. So live and learn, man. You guys are expanding my world. All right, friends. I'll leave you. Thanks, Nick, again for reminding me. Adam, good seeing you.
All right,
for sure. But let's get together sometime in the next couple of months. We got to figure out work schedule and stuff. But not getting any younger. Let's make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, gents. Peace out.
That's right. Hey, it's awesome to see you, Jerry.
Nice.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
I kind of kicked him off a little early. Sorry, Jerry.
All right.
Oh, yeah. So What's up, man?
Not much. I won't tie you up too long. I know the show's probably just about over now.
It was fun. So,
But
did you get a chance to go see
I am
Dune
the
again?
guy that saw 25 minutes. I saw 25 minutes of it. But I think that I think I'm motivated to go see it again because I've heard that it's wonderful. I liked what I saw. Here's the thing. We saw a lot of scenes of Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya's character like in the desert and stuff, and the people all around them in the desert. So I kept waking up thinking I was not asleep,
So,
or trying to lie to myself.
You're like, I haven't missed anything, and next thing you're like, wait, why is there? What the hell happened?
Yeah, and then by the time the movie was over, I was like, "There's no way it was that quick."
Right.
Like I knew I only saw 40 minutes of a movie. I knew it.
That was the fastest 3-hour movie that's ever been.
Yeah. But I went out cold, man.
But yeah, we were just going over some of the highlights, and like I literally made it through like one page of notes. I got other stuff I want to talk about too, but we're have to have Jerry back on. We'll talk about it. But yeah, definitely go check it out. It's for a 2-hour and 46 movie, 2-hour 46-minute movie. It cruises pretty good. And I think it's one of the things I meant to talk to Jerry about because before the movie came out, and I was thinking about Dune 1, and it was like, you know what it really seemed like, Adam? It seemed like a much more mature and adult take on Star Wars. And when they did an interview with the director, that's kind of what his point was. He's like, I wanted to make a mature and adult Star Wars. That's what he was going for. And I was like, dude, you nailed it, because that's exactly what I thought it was.
From the first one.
Well, just in general. Like he wanted,
you mean, right?
Yeah, he means.
Oh yeah.
It's, and that's one of the things I was telling Jerry. I was like, being a Star Wars guy, and I was like, Star Wars is the greatest, and blah 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 blah. And then you like watch this, and you're like, hey, George Lucas, you borrowed a lot from from Dune. So I'm just like, all right, okay, maybe Dune was the catalyst for a lot of this, the not just Star Wars, but a lot of the sci-fi, past the 60s, where it's like, oh, everybody kind of stole a little bit. So.
Yeah, and it's that treat that further you get down the rabbit hole kind of a thing, the more you start to appreciate stuff. You learn new things about the things you loved.
Well, and also that, but also just like, man, like I was talking earlier with Jerry, where it's like, it's so hard for me to get into, like, especially some sci-fi. Cats.
All I got to do is clap.
Yeah.
Yep. All I got to do is clap.
But so it's some stories are so hard for me to get into because some people go so hard into the sci-fi nature of, like the character's name. I was like, I can't even pronounce the damn character's name because that's how hard you went with something where, and that Frank Herbert created such a world where it's like, no, like the names are, they're not too crazy, they're not too difficult to remember, and it's just one of those things where, like, there's a fine art to storytelling that Frank Herbert really crafted an excellent world for Dune. So, and I think Denis Villeneuve is absolutely, as it's one of those books they said is unadaptable, and I think he's done a great job, very similar to the way Zack Snyder did with The Watchmen.
And how? Well said, Nick. Very well said. I do remember seeing. We are talking. Okay, Dune 2 spoilers. Good. I do remember seeing how they were talking about he would prophesize and call it the planet in our native tongue, and that's when they're like Dune, and I was like, oh, that's where it came from.
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
That's one of the reasons I want to have.
It doesn't just look like a Dune.
You're right. Well, we were
It is, dude.
we were talking about the cinematography. I was like, for it just being a desert planet. I was like, every scene is just gorgeous. Like all the landscapes are gorgeous, but it's just deserts, and you're just like, yeah, it for being like just the desert, but it seems like such a, it seems like a place you've been before, but yet so foreign. And it was just like they just did such a great job with it. So.
I am creating. You can't end the show right this moment. I am creating a screenshot here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm gonna save it and put it up in Facebook or something.
Oh, okay.
We look dumb in it.
Oh. So it's nothing new.
I got a joke for you.
Okay.
Oh, we're still streaming. I'll tell you later.
So yeah, well, seems like a good spot to wrap it up. All right, guys, and
you just get off telling like this awesome thing, and I'm like, I'm making a screen.
so I was waiting for a response. I was like, I'm doing a thing. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us. If you want to see,
I'm just word.
Right. So, if you want to see what we're talking about on the show, you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram. If you have not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, it would help out the channel a great deal. We are on all the major podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and Google Podcasts. And we are streaming on X now, Adam. I didn't tell you that because I just did that. But you can check us out on X. And other than that, anything you want to say, my friend?
No, just really good to see you, man. I'm glad I got on, even for a brief moment.
Absolutely. So, all right. Good night, America.